What's up, everyone? My name is Tyler Adolfo. I'm 27 years old and I'm morbidly obese. In this video, I want to share my perspective. I promise you, I am not seeking pity about my present condition. I just want to share my perspective, speak the truth, share insights that I've gained since becoming morbidly obese. But before we get to that, we have to talk about how I got here. Start the story in the beginning. It's never fun to start the story in the middle. So, I went from 180 pounds in March of 2022 to being 354 pounds at my peak, and now I'm currently down to 330 pounds. I've had some success getting below that number. I've gotten as low as 303, but I haven't been under 300 pounds now in many years. And one of the major things that contributed to this was my mental health. I was in intense depression. It was by far the most intense depressive episode I ever felt. And I actually just uploaded a video about that if you're interested in learning more details about that. But the abridged version is that I had a bipolar manic episode which lasted 6 months. And it had many consequences. And as a result of those consequences, I fell into a deep depression. During that deep depression, I became addicted to certain behaviors and what I perceive to be coping mechanisms. I know they're not healthy coping mechanisms. So, for example, overeating. And I had so much fatigue that I did not want to exercise or do anything. I became so completely apathetic. I had a total lack of concern about things that others and most others find important. I remember these two stories in particular. So I was seeing a psychiatrist at the time, and I remember seeing her one day, and she mentioned, "I'm concerned about your weight. Since I've saw you, it looks like you've put on quite a bit." And this was just a few months after starting to see this psychiatrist, and she noticed so speedily right then and there. If I was in a stable mind, I would have recognized the gravity of the situation and proactively taken steps to prevent the further escalation of the problem, weight gain. Unfortunately, I was not in a stable mind. I was dealing with the depressive side of bipolar disorder, and I was apathetic and had anhedonia. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't care about anything or anyone or anybody. But that story sticks out to me. And I remember looking in the mirror at one point. Oh, I'm getting dressed to go out. The only time I went out was for medical appointments because that's how depressed I was. I would go a month period without leaving my apartment. And that's sad. It does hurt to think about how sad that I was and how I thought that I would never get out of that period, that I would never move beyond from that dark chapter of my life, but I was able to persist. And the moment I want to draw your attention to is when I just noticed my clothes were not fitting anymore. Large no longer fit. And then there was a day when XL no longer fit. And then there was a day when double XL no longer fit. And then 2X no longer fit. And I'm now wearing 3X. And some clothes, 3X isn't even big enough. And I have to wear 4X of a specific size in order to feel comfortable. That's where I'm at right now. I've had many physical struggles, of course, of being overweight, and that's the fatigue, not having the energy to do anything. I've experienced a lot of breathlessness where when I go up a flight of stairs, I am just totally winded and out of it as if I just ran a 5 mile marathon. Of course, I didn't. I just took 20 steps, but it happens. And man, is it aggravating to go from doing track in high school to being winded after going up a flight of stairs. Because I used to be in phenomenal shape. And this is where I'm at today. I don't believe I'll be at this weight forever. I do have a strong feeling that if I don't capitulate to the stressors that are affecting my life and motivation, that I will persist and get back into good physical shape. But it's going to take time, effort, diligence, commitment, all of those things. Everything felt more hard since I put on the weight, everything's felt more difficult. Finding motivation to do anything because I feel like there's an opportunity cost of any time I do anything other than exercise, then I am doing so at the neglect of my own body, which desperately needs me to get it back in good physical shape. Because right now I'm at high risk of contracting deadly preventable diseases, and that's not good for anybody. It's come with mental health struggles as well. I've always been a socially anxious person, pretty introverted, but I've become a lot more socially affable over the years and more competent in my social interactions just through trial and error and time and effort. But my social anxiety has exacerbated since putting on this weight. I do feel a reduction in my self esteem. I do worry about how others perceive me. Oh, he must be lazy, or oh, look what he's doing to himself. He doesn't even care. Like, just these type of thoughts that people may have. The degree to which they have them, I probably exaggerate in my own mind, but I know there's people out there who think that. People are constantly judging and passing judgment on others, whether they like to say they do or not. I think I need to acknowledge that mental health played a role in this, and one of the byproducts of the mental illness is, of course, I had to take medication, and the medications that I was put on all had light to moderate weight gain as side effects. Of course, I went from 180 to 354, so I experienced much more than light to moderate weight gain. But had I been in a stable mind, those symptoms that were enumerated, I would have been able to take actions that mitigate the probability of putting on that weight, but I didn't do so because I was not in a stable mind. So, what I'm doing now, today, like physically, mentally, my perspective, how it's changed, is I'm doing a lot of walking, and this is very recent. I recently started doing a lot of walking. Right now, I'm averaging about 5 miles a day, which I know is not particularly impressive, certainly compared to what I used to do when I was in shape. I loved walking, I loved running. I still do. I just need to do more of it more consistently, and I know the pounds will start evaporating away, reduce drastically, decline so fast. Well, in order for that to happen, I need to walk consistently as much as possible. So that's one thing. The other thing is, and this is a piece of advice I was given quite recently, yesterday in fact, that is small wins are better than big failures. In other words, you want small wins because they add up to become big wins. If you make, vast changes immediately, if I'm drinking 3 iced coffees a day and then go to 0 right away, if I'm drinking 5 cups of soda a day and then go to 0 cups of soda a day, right? These types of drastic changes. Or if I go from exercising 0 minutes a day to exercising 4 hours a day, I'm setting myself up for big failures because those are ambitious goals that are happening too fast, and we need a gradual approach in most situations for most people. That's what presents the higher probability of finding success in the long run. Because what good is going outside and exercising 4 hours a day if I only do it for 2 weeks, burn out, and then stop exercising altogether? Well, I mean, that was a pretty phenomenal 2 weeks. I was probably feeling great, but I burned myself out. I didn't have those habits yet built up and reinforced to get me outdoors consistently, and so I did too much. I want to conclude by saying that obesity does not define your worth. I mentioned how some people may have these perceptions that people who are obese are lazy or don't care about themselves, but it's just not true. There's plenty of people out there who are obese for a wide array of reasons, from different mental health disorders and issues to anxiety, depression, and fatigue is very real. And as far as the obese people are lazy, there's obese people who work 80 hours a week. I wouldn't call that lazy. There's obese people who work full time on top of going to school full time and taking multiple extracurricular clubs. So I'm ardently opposed to this idea that obese people are just lazy. No, there's external factors that do have internal impacts. And that's important to remember. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you're interested in following me on my journey, on the first of every month next year, that's 2026, I will be giving an update vlog talking about where I stand on my weight loss journey, what gains or losses rather I had, if any at all, during that given month. And we're going to see how much progress I can make to December 1st of the end of the year, from January 1st to December 1st. Let's do this. Thank you again. Subscribe if you're new here. Hit the like button so that more people can see this video. And I want to wish you all a wonderful day.